Well, I'm hoping at this point you guys already know what's going on. It's time for the first Reptile Room Tour of 2025. Let's get started. And you guys already know that this is going to be a jam-packed video full of new tanks, new animals, as well as going through some of the plans for this year in the Reptile Room. Mostly, it's gonna have to do with this tank right here. Enough of the blabbling, let's get over to the disclaimer that I always give at the beginning of the videos. You guys already know the drill. Me and Bree do this basically full-time on top of another full-time job. This is not me condoning you owning several hundred animals. Grab your cup of coffee, grab a beer, grab a tea, grab whatever you wanna drink, and let's get going. If this is your first time joining me here on my channel, you guys are about to see some crazy cool animals, some of which maybe you've never seen before, many of which you've probably heard of. But let's get started with just a quick walkthrough of the room. We got wood tanks here. We got a massive industrial rack here. Some quarantine froggos. Another massive industrial rack here. A very empty snake rack. And then, of course, my prized possessions, where we are going to start this video, my Oophaga histrionica. Look at that, some new life growing in this tank. This is a 110-gallon vivarium that I custom built myself, the background included, and has been running now for quite a while. I want to say like 8 months. It's growing in very well. I'm very happy with all the growth. And the most exciting news of all is that we have a pair of blue histrionica. There are actually 3 in here, 2 males, 1 female, and I believe that's one of the males back there. And then there was actually 2 hiding behind that bromeliad. But this tank is doing fantastic. I know you guys are probably waiting for the build video, and it will be coming, rest assured. I was hoping to have it done last year in 2024, but unfortunately that did not happen. So this year will definitely be the year for this. In fact, I'm hoping to have this out quite soon, in the next couple weeks at the most. Hold me to that. Make sure you beat me up in the comments. I'm sure you guys will. I don't want to give away too much of this tank and how I built it, so I'm just kind of giving you guys a sweeping overview as of right now, and then you guys will have to tune into that video when it comes out. I'll make sure once it's out, I'll try and put a link up here if I remember. If not, I'll leave it in the description of this video. And right next to that tank, we have another twin vivarium, exact same dimensions, exact same size. It's 33 by 22 by 33 inches tall. There's a lot of exciting things with this group here. These are my Oophaga histrionica fuego. The male is back there, and the female I don't currently see right now. I also don't see the very exciting news. Currently, I have 2 babies from these guys. This is the second time they've produced, and they're doing fantastic. The first batch had a few issues with some MBD, unfortunately, in the hatchlings. This batch so far looks incredible. I really wish the baby was out because it is stunning. It is nicer than both mom and dad. If you're looking for some information on how I built this tank, there is a video that I'll link up here for you guys to check out at the end of this video. I'm very happy with it. These Broms are going to have to go soon. They're just getting too big. They block out all of the light from the bottom portion of the vivarium, and I would really like to grow some plants down there. So unfortunately, tough decisions are going to need to be made, and I'm really not looking forward to that because I don't want to like restart their breeding activity or anything. But like this Brom is probably, well, it's a 33-inch wide tank. I don't know, maybe 28 inches across, something like that, and probably equally as high, if not even taller. It's a very, very tall Brom, but I love the way this tank looks. In this 44-inch tank, we have our beautiful Cardinal. She's an Oreocryptophis porphyraceus coxi, otherwise known as a Thai bamboo rat snake, and she has an interesting story. The past couple months, somebody left the door a crack open because this super low iron glass is so clear when I clean it that it looks like there's no glass there. So I left the door open, and she ended up going on a little vacation in the basement for a couple weeks. She's doing well. She looks like she might be shedding here in the next little bit, but Bree just went through here and decided to clean up her tank a little bit and make it look all nice and spick and span. Unfortunately, some of these plants are fake. This one that you're staring at there, the fern, as well as that little fern back there, they are fake plants. It's unfortunate, but we do plan to redo this tank at some point. It's not super high on the list just because it is looking great. The plants that are alive in here are doing very well, which is nice to see. She is doing extremely well, maybe even slightly on the chunkier side, but nonetheless, an absolutely gorgeous snake. And unfortunately with snakes, you just can't stop feeding them because they're not really going to lose that much weight. Their metabolism basically just shuts off. So you essentially just have to feed them much smaller meals, slightly less often. Like if you feed them every 2 weeks, feed them every like 3 to 4, and then just a smaller meal at that time. Finally, some of the plants are actually coming back. If you guys aren't familiar with the channel, you'll know that this plant back here died off entirely because of thrips. So we ended up introducing a basically pest killer, and even with her in there, had no ill effects on her, but completely wiped out all the thrips. And now this plant is back in business, which is so good. It's a Schefflera arbicola, maybe? Amata, I think. And it's like the sunset variety. This guy down here is also real. So we do have a mixture of live and fake plants in here. So that is enough from our main red girl, Miss Cardinal. Guess I better make sure to close that, shouldn't I? In this tank here, we have my lone female Bahia Grande, otherwise known as a Cristobal, which is a species of dart frog, as you might gather from that little Oophaga pumilio tag down there. These guys are absolutely gorgeous, but she is always super hidden. There's almost no way I'm going to be able to find her. All the way at the back there, you can kind of see it. There's a seed pod, and she likes to hide behind there, or completely buried behind this big, beautiful bromeliad at the back. So this tank is doing well. Just one of the frogs in there is very shy. So kind of unfortunate. I wish she was definitely more bold. There's most certainly a world where I actually sell her and then I pick up another species of frog for this tank. I haven't decided on that yet. Maybe sometime in the future, but it's just something that's not off the chopping block, that's for sure. And now we can move on to, just kidding, all of the adult hognose and the adult king snakes are in brumation currently, so that will cut out a good like 15 minutes of this video, but rest assured they'll be back in about 2 weeks or so. So hopefully for the next Reptile Room Tour, you guys will be able to see them there. While we're down here on the ground, we can move over to these bad boys. These are Leucasium damium, otherwise known as beaded geckos. They were just kind of went through. We were checking for eggs and such today, so there's a very good chance that they're not actually going to come out for this video unless I add some food. The crickets have been acquired. Toss a few in there. Typically they come storming to the front. Oh, there we go. You're hungry. You guys are always hungry. So these guys, like I mentioned before, these are Leucasium damium. The beaded gecko, they are endemic to Australia. They are such cool, personable, little tiny geckos. Had you told me like 5-10 years ago that these little geckos are so charismatic, I would have been like, man, no little geckos are that charismatic. There's no way. On an average day, these guys will come out, hang out. The second we walk into the room, they're like running up to the front here, checking us out, making sure we don't have food, or maybe sometimes we do have food, and then they're very stoked. But they are notoriously horrible hunters. They're hilarious. I love them so much. They are semi-handleable if you're really needing to handle them, but they're certainly not a species that I'd recommend for like regular handling. They're so cool to observe when you set up a habitat like this with heat, UVB, light, you know, the normal things that all reptiles need really. And with her going back into hiding, we can move over to the empty turtle tanks. Yes, like I mentioned, most of the reptiles are currently in brumation, but what we did do is redo their enclosures long before they come out of brumation. so they actually have time to grow in and settle in before the turtles ravage them. Right now the turtles are doing great in brumation, just chilling under the leaf litter in a nice cold part of the house. And I think these tanks turned out really well. We used mostly ferns this time, which I think will backfire once the turtles are in there. It kind of looks cinematic, I don't know. I really like the way it's looking. Cannot complain one bit. I'm not going to talk about an empty enclosure for more than a minute. We can move on to another empty enclosure up here. Wow. No, I'm going to keep this short. This is the Scaphiophrine marmorata, otherwise known as the Madagascar rain frogs. They're also in brumation. We're going to be trying to breed them this year, and part of that is putting them down for a 1.5 to 2 month brumation, and that's where they are. So their tank's empty, but the plants are still looking great. This beautiful monstera here is actually growing in really well. When they left for brumation, it only had like 2 leaves maybe. It is basically like 2x the amount of leaves on it. And this really cool root has started to attach to the background, and that is the beauty of the cork backgrounds. They're natural, they don't have silicone on them, so the roots will grow into them and anchor into them super, super easily. Alrighty, and now that we've finished going over all of the reptiles that are in brumation, we can move on to my favorite genus of reptiles, that we keep at least, and that is Tachydromus. These guys are the Tachydromus smaragdinus, otherwise known as the emerald or green grass lizards. This is the gorgeous female right here. I don't want to get too close because these guys tend to be a little bit more skittish than my other species, the Tachydromus dorsalis right next door. What's cool about these guys is the male is sexually dichromatic. So what that means is that the male is a different color than the females. The females, as you can see, are entirely green, with that kind of cream colored line down the side of their body. And the male, unfortunately, I don't see him right now. It is almost lights out, so he's probably just chilling and about to fall asleep for the evening because they are diurnal. But these guys are just so cool. It's like a TV, but even better. They're always active. They're always hunting. Like you'll see them foraging around in the leaf litter for isopods and anything else they can find down there. And they are currently being kept in an 18-18-24 Exoterra with a 3-sided background. And I would highly recommend a 3-sided background for all of the Tachydromus because they will use every square inch. Like I said, they're better than TV. They're always active. They're always running around. They'll bask for 5 minutes and then zoom around and then come bask for another 10 minutes and then zoom around. And the cycle just repeats itself all day. There are several species of Tachydromus in captivity. However, I only keep 2 of them. Right here, we have the Tachydromus dorsalis. These guys are a larger, much tamer species, I would say. They're much more interactive. They're easy to just like go in, and they typically don't wig out. If you guys can see the one at the very top, debating whether or not it jumps on my hand, but yes. So in here we've made some changes since the last Reptile Room Tour. Bree and myself, mostly Bree, came to the decision that it would be a good idea to take the old male Turok out of this tank because he was definitely much more of a bully when it came to these guys, or when it came to the females at least, and move the other pair that we had been raising up in with Matcha, who's the female from here. They are doing well so far. We only just moved them like maybe 3 or 4 hours ago. They're doing fantastic together, and I'm looking forward to some babies here later this year. Now these guys are in a 22-inch by 17-inch deep by 24-inch tall tank. There's no background on here because this has like the panel background, but when we move, when we have more space, I will be upgrading them to a much larger enclosure because again, these guys do love to climb. They love to be active. So I want to be able to give them that opportunity to use as much of the tank as they want and be able to sit up nice and high because these guys are larger. They do tend to hang out more on like broadleaf canopies in the wild, and I would love to replicate that in captivity. All of these guys that you see here are captive bred. None of them are wild caught. Unlike the Tachydromus sexlineatus or the long-tailed grass lizard, those guys are pretty much all wild caught. They'll be 20 bucks at your local Petco, but they might not do so well for you. So if you're considering picking some of these guys up, which I highly recommend everybody does, so that you guys can see just that I'm right and that these guys are so cool to keep in captivity. I love them, if you guys couldn't tell. based on me ranting about them for 5 minutes. Anyways, with that being said, we will move over here with kind of Tachydromus alley. Basically, all of these tanks are filled with tachyes. Here are some baby growouts of the Tachydromus dorsalis. They're just chilling in an 8x8x12 Exoterra. They will be upgraded to a 12x12x18 here in the near future. This right here is Midori. This is my oldest female and her mate, Turok, which is right here. They are separated. These two actually came to me from the US, from Rico. He said they were like, I want to say 8 or 9 when he sent them up, maybe even 10, and I've had them for several years now. With that being said, she is slowing down a little bit. I've mentioned in my other videos that, you know, her back leg mobility is not quite what it used to be, though she is very capable of getting around, eating, and basking. So as long as her quality of life is good, I will keep her where she is right now. And once it starts to slip, I will make the tough choice that at some point all pet keepers need to make. And then right next to Midori, we have Turok, the old male. He is definitely doing much better than Midori. He's got no real signs of slowing down. Granted, he also doesn't have the burden of laying eggs every like 2 to 3 weeks. Since I've moved her away from the male, she has stopped that, so I think that is definitely a good thing for her. But he has always been a little bit more testy and a little bit more flighty. That being said, Turok, we do love you very much. And he will be getting a redo on this enclosure. This was just moving him in here for the time being. And likely in the next video, you'll see a brand new setup for him. And these last few tanks I'm going to try and blast through relatively quickly. More baby dorsalis. These guys are much larger. They are sellable, and I am actually selling them. So if you are interested, you are welcome to send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, email, wherever you can message me. I can ship to the US as well as around Canada. Obviously, shipping to the US won't be until April, and around Canada will be probably around the same time when the weather's a lot better. And right next to the other baby tackies are more baby tackies. Wow, go figure. These are baby Smaragdinus. I mean, I guess like subadult Smaragdinus. Currently we have 2 males in here and 1 female. She's chilling at the bottom there. We did also redo their tank since the last video. You can see just how curious they are. Look at them. Actually, this is also a perfect example of the sexual dichromatic colors, where the male has the nice green back and the brown sides, and the female you guys saw earlier is just completely green. And that about does it for the Tachydromus section of this video. And I know I haven't finished with that other rack over there, but I might as well finish up top here. Caspian, who is our baby red-tailed green rat snake, or the Gonyosoma oxycephalum. He was produced by our good friend Ashley and has been doing fantastic in our care. He used to be housed in a bin, and the second he was large enough to go in a tank like this and ate reliably, he moved into here. So very, very cool. I like the setup. It's kind of a nice mood with the Cebu Blue Pothos. So I'm very happy to share that he's doing well, eating well, and soon he'll grow up nice and big like her. But we'll cover her a little bit later. We got to go behind her tank and finish off this rack here. We can just start on the end of this rack here because we've already covered the tackies. In here, we have, oh, there we go. I spotted them. I gotcha. We have some beautiful Chahoua Geckos. This is one of our 2 pairs of Chahoua that we currently keep, doing wonderfully. It's nice giving them a break during the winter time because it cools down. They really stop producing any eggs, and these guys make great geckos. If you're looking for something like an alternative to crested geckos or Leachianis, these guys do get fairly large. Sometimes they can be a little testy. However, all of the animals that we have 2 pairs plus a solo adult plus like 5 babies right now, and all of them are very well mannered, especially as adults. As babies, they can be a little skittish, and as adults, they become very fantastic geckos. I wish I knew about these when I was younger. I definitely would have had one as maybe even like my first or second reptile, just because they're so cool, they're so inquisitive. But with that being said, they do need a little bit more specific care requirements than the other New Caledonian species, and that is they need UVB. We provide pretty much all of our reptiles with UVB, and these guys truly use it. We catch them just sitting here all the time, basking in the UV. Even back there, they're technically cryptic basking. There is low levels of UVB at the back. It is very important for them. If they do not have the UVB and they're not getting enough calcium in their diet, they are prone to calcium crashes. Thankfully, neither Bree or I have experienced that even a single time yet. And now you guys can see me looking like an absolute buffoon, holding the camera well above my head to show you guys these. This is the Oophaga setup. Fortunately, we do not have them anymore. Bree made the executive decision to sell her adult pair of Oophaga. Thankfully, we do still have 5 babies that I'll show you later on, but right now this tank is just purely empty. Then over here, we have another pair of Chahoua. I see some belly folds, but I don't see any geckos themselves. But that's, again, a pair being housed in an 18-18-24. And continuing with the Chahoua trend, we have, actually, I guess we traded for this individual. She's not out right now. And finally, right next to the Chahoua tank, we have probably the biggest disappointment of a tank that we currently have, and that is the Mourning Gecko tank. I do intend on redoing it and providing a 12x12x24 for these guys. Or I guess girls would be a more accurate saying. Look at that yellow belly. She is stunning. There are several different types of Mourning Geckos if you're interested. We actually keep like 3 types in here currently. And because they don't produce from sexual reproduction, meaning a male and a female, they produce by asexual reproduction, which is basically just the female cloning herself. We're not actually gonna cross them. So that's perfect. Yeah, you guys can just see how many eggs are back there. And then there's eggs up front here. Yeah, there's a bunch of changes that we're gonna be making to this tank or the new tank, and I cannot wait for that. Hopefully, by the time you see the next Reptile Room Tour, we'll have that done. And now that we've talked about the Mourning Geckos a little bit, I would like to introduce you all to the newest member of the Reptile Room. This is Chip. Chip is my new little homie. I love him very much. Let me just play a clip for you guys. So why do you need me? I'm gonna cry. So yes, that was Bree surprising me for Christmas with a new tortoise. Do I recommend this? No. Do I love her more for this? Yes. Chip is a Hermes tortoise. I don't know exactly what locality just yet. We think he might be an Eastern, or I guess I shouldn't say he, because we don't really know. It's too small to know. But look how cute that little face is. Oh my goodness. Chip is the absolute cutest. He's about a year old. He's currently living in a pen. If you guys are interested in the video, you guys can go check it out on the top right of your screen. This pen is currently not bioactive and all fake plants. However, come springtime, we'll be getting a bunch of live plants for him. And eventually, like the plan with Sheldon was, is he'll get this entire bottom shelf. And that wood piece is the old pen that I had cut for Sheldon. If you guys have been a long-time follower and you might have missed the update, my man Sheldon, my OG tortoise of like 10 years and should have been much longer, was found passed away in his tub. That was all the way back in October. I don't forgive myself. I don't think it's really my fault. Everybody tells me it's not my fault, but that doesn't mean I don't blame myself for, you know, not noticing something wrong, even though tortoises especially are notorious for hiding ailments and just being bulletproof, and then all of a sudden they're not. So Chip is a wonderful surprise from Bree. I'm very happy to have him. I can't wait to watch him grow. I say him, I don't know if it's actually a him or not, but I can't wait to watch it grow and turn into a beautiful adult tortoise. I'm also even more excited to get this tank planted with live plants and just looking even better than it does now. Personally, I think this fake grass actually looks pretty decent. Besides this piece right here, the centerpiece, I don't like that one, but the other ones look pretty solid in my opinion at least. And Chip is just doing fantastic. Keeping on the bottom here, we can move over to the Grumpy Munchkin Ender, who we've taken some time to redo his enclosure because it was just looking decrepit and gross. In the very, very near future, by like mid-March at the latest, he'll be getting an upgrade. He'll be going into a 36, 18, 24-inch tall Exoterra. Well, if you guys are looking forward to seeing Ender, then I guess you'll have to wait until March, and you'll see him in the upgrade video. Make sure you keep an eye out for that video in March because it will be a banger. It'll be another build that will be catered to him, and he'll actually be living in our room. So a little bit of a different environment for him, but it will be awesome. And sticking with the middle shelf of the same rack, we have some new additions. I believe I showed you them as a teaser in the last Reptile Room Tour, but I don't know how in depth I went. Oh no, they all heard me. I don't want them to run away. So this is Doughy. Are you gonna do your like scared flap flaps? He like shakes his jowls when he gets upset. But these are called fish scale geckos. They've been kind of blowing up Bree's Instagram because everybody has questions about them and nobody has answers. We have two species. We don't really know what they are because nobody in the hobby really truly has speciated them because they're almost impossible to do a scale count on. Yeah, these guys are most likely from the maculata. So there are the Geckolepis maculata and the Typica clade of the fish scale geckos, but exactly what species they are is very, very, very challenging to figure out because they shed their skin. They're called fish scale geckos because their scales are so easily removed. If you touch these guys, they fall apart. It's so weird. They look like naked chicken. Now with that, they also have insane regeneration of their scales. So this is like the other species that we have. Much smaller, a little bit different scalation. But as I was saying, it is super challenging to get a scale count on these guys because their scales fall off so easily. And like I said, sometimes they have some little lovers' quarrels and there's a little nip or two that happens and you'll just see like a little patch of raw chicken and then in like a week, it's gone. It is insane to me how fast these guys regenerate their scales. It's so, so cool. If you guys didn't know much about these guys, they are from Madagascar. They're endemic to Madagascar as far as I know. Unfortunately, these are a super understudied gecko and it makes them really hard to study because you need scale counts for speciation, and because these guys slough them so easily, it's nearly impossible to get. So that's also information coming from Dr. Mark Schertz, a very prominent researcher in Madagascar, and somebody that both Bree and myself has spoken to about these guys, and there's still so many gaps to fill in the academic knowledge as well as the hobby knowledge because truthfully, we're not much better. We hybridize these most likely. They come in pretty high numbers from the wild and we sell them immediately. We don't know if these guys are wild caught or captive bred. We did buy them from Europe, but that really doesn't mean anything. Just based on the condition they came in when we got them, we're thinking they might be wild caught, but we were told they're captive bred. And both the babies are nowhere to be found. They're in there, chilling. You guys won't see them in this video. Now, moving on to Gumby and Blobby. These frogs have been an absolute nightmare, and I just want to show you how they got to the positions that they're in, so I'll play that clip. What are you doing? I think it goes. that truly might be one of the best things that I've ever filmed for my YouTube channel ever. These guys have been on a slow road to recovery, I would say. They are starting to look better now. If you guys don't know, we've been treating them, we've been medicating them for strongyloides, as well as a couple other basically internal parasites. It's going okay. Finally, I think we have found the treatment for them, and it's actually going to be ivermectin. We're going to have to give them that here very soon again, just to treat them and hopefully finally get rid of whatever they are still carrying with them. Other than that, they're doing great, they're eating well, and it just kills me to see these guys in a tank like this. Makes me sad, but it is pretty necessary in order to keep things relatively sterile and clean. And here we have one of the baby Fuego. I decided to separate one of the offspring from the parents and the other baby just to see the difference in growth rates and whatnot. Obviously, a sample size of 1 is not ideal, but slowly over time I will boost those numbers and be able to kind of experience it for myself, which is better, leaving the babies in with the parents or separating them. So far, the parents are winning. The one in there is a little bit bigger and just has some nicer coloration, but this one is doing pretty well. Next to the little baby froglet, we have a pair of Oophaga pumilio bastimentos. That is the male right there. And I'm not even going to look for the female because she's always either invisible or hiding somewhere. And then like once every few weeks she comes out and I see her and they're both still looking great. So can't complain about that. But this tank definitely needs some TLC. And I might actually end up moving these guys into the Bahia Grande setup once I'm able to sell the Bahia Grande. I think the best part about this tank is these Gesneriad flowers. This thing has been flowering for months and months and months and months. Normally they don't do that, but for whatever reason right now this thing is just going wild. And now we have the wood rack. These are a stack of 3 4x2x2s stacked all on top of each other, as the name implies. And in here we have Indy, who desperately needs to have a shed. One of Bree's like OG reptiles. He's a northern blue-tongued skink, Taliqua skincoides intermedia. And how are you, buddy? Yeah, you got some stuck shed. You need to get that off. Yeah. So cool. I love blue-tongued skinks. They're little garbage disposals, and they make great beginner pets. If you can meet their needs, they will be so good for you. They're very chill for the most part, especially the northern blue-tongues. The Indonesians can be a little bit more cantankerous and less friendly, but the northerns tend to be very chill. They stay a bit smaller, actually quite a bit smaller. Like my Indonesian blue-tongued skink was something like 30 or 32 inches long, and Indy is about 18 to 20 inches. He is chilling like a villain. Moving up top, because we do not have anything down below, we have an empty Uromastyx tank. Nah, I'm just kidding. They are still in here, but like I mentioned, the lights are about to go off in like 20 minutes here, so they have hunkered down for the evening in their little bunkers. Hugo's in here. Hugo, I did have a little bit of issues with not even really impaction, or I think they're called gastroliths. Basically, they're like compacted food in his stomach that wasn't able to be pooped out. I did several enemas, or actually I got my buddy Steve to do a couple enemas on him, and I gave him some medication, some basically laxatives, and it seems like he is starting to pass some of those now. Finally, it's basically been like 2 months of constant soaks and a couple enemas and just constant effort with him, and he's finally starting to come out of it, which is so nice. I was really scared I was going to lose him there for a little while, but it seems like he'll get to live quite a bit longer. Fingers crossed. If you guys have any recommendations in the comments for kind of how to pass those blockages, let me know. I'd be happy to try them with him. He's doing much better. I was definitely terrified that I was going to lose him, and I'm very happy that it looks to be not that way anymore. The tank is doing good. There are definitely some changes that I'm going to make to it, but you guys will have to stay tuned for another episode when I redo this tank and the tank down there in order to make it Uromastyx ready. And now before we get lost in the sauce of the baby racks slash the not brumating hognoses, we will go into the center portion here and show you the gorgeous Kalea, the Gonyosoma oxycephalum, otherwise known as the red-tailed ratsnake, and she is the Borneo locality, so she is not really green, and she also doesn't have a red tail. You can very clearly see it's basically a slate blue. She breaks all of the molds, but she is a fantastic creature that is actually one of Bree's favorite reptiles in the reptile room, and this is actually why she decided to sell off her Boega, was to focus on these guys more and to give them more time, more space, and just more effort in captivity. These guys are very commonly wild caught, and they typically don't do so well when they come in. If you're a more experienced hobbyist, they may do all right, but just in general, they're very touchy, especially when they're fresh imports. However, as captive bred individuals, they tend to be quite bulletproof. We're really hoping to produce these guys, and the lights are going off in the reptile room. Excuse me, ma'am. What? She's always very food motivated. What a goofy goofball. And it is now the next morning. We, of course, got a fresh cup of coffee, and we can continue on with the center island here. I don't know what you want to call it, really. Kalea is now in her hides because it's morning time, and the lights just came on about an hour ago. I'm not going to talk about this. Over here, though, we do have just a quick little setup that I made, actually. And this is going to be tried to be sold at like an expo or something. It'd be great for like sand geckos, scorpions. It would also work great for air tarantulas. Just a quick little build. If you are interested and you're in Canada and you want to pick it up, let us know. Specifically Toronto, because I'm not shipping this, but GTA, let us know. And this can be yours. Over here, we got some eggs incubating. Here we have a stack of yellow springtails. And then over here, I want to see if they're still out. Oh, there they are. So this is Bree's very favorite species of dart frogs. These are the Southern Variabilis. Very, very beautiful species of frog. And unlike most of the thumbnails, they're actually out pretty often. I mean, right now they're being kept in a bin, but they will be moved to the tank that used to be over there and is currently out on our work table because Bree's redoing it. That's a pretty frog right there. We got 4 of them. They're doing great. Now the rest of this rack is all just empty at the bottom there. And then up here, we have a couple members that are fairly new. I think they were in the last Reptile Room Tour. But this is Bree's obsession, the Sonora. I don't remember what species these are because the Sonora genus as a whole just changes constantly and has extreme amounts of variability. I believe these are Sonora occipitalis, but I could be very wrong. But yes, this is the little baby. He's so small. Like, I don't know, that's my finger next to his head. So he's about as long as my finger, which is crazy. Absolutely tiny. And then in here, I'm not going to disturb them too much if we can't just see them outright. Oh, don't know how well you guys will be able to see that, but yeah, there's a trio in here. We don't know exact sexes or anything, but we didn't want to put them down into brumation because we had just recently got them before we put them into brumation, and we want to make sure that they're doing all right. That's the story with these guys in here. They're doing great, they're eating, and yeah, can't complain at all. The other ones that used to be up here are now currently in brumation. Up top here, we have a few of our Chahoua. I'll take out our holdback because the rest of them have actually sold. And then we're holding a couple of them back as well. So I'll take out the biggest one for you guys right now. Alrighty, I'm just gonna stand off to the side here and just show you guys this gorgeous Chahoua that we produced here at the Jungle Vault. Absolute stunner. Look at its back. Oh, they're just like cream and peaches. A fairly white collar as well, which is nice. When I was talking about Chahoua earlier in the video, you guys heard that sometimes as babies they can be a little bit cantankerous. But as you can see, like, this is still not anywhere near an adult, and it is very well behaved, easily handleable, and honestly, they just make for a fantastic pet. So that was really the only Chahoua that I'm going to show off, just because, I mean, they all look fairly similar, and if you're not into Chahoua, you won't really notice. In here, I had some vampire crabs, and unfortunately, these guys didn't make it. Down here, I want to see if these dudes will come out, because they're so cute. Well, food wasn't the motivating factor for these guys, so I ended up finding one of them because look how cute they are. These are Diplodactylus galeatus, the helmeted gecko, and I mean, this is a full-grown adult. Perfect size, reference with my hand. They might be 3 inches long, if that, 2.5. And my favorite feature is their super bright eyes. Oh, and just like all the other Australian geckos that we have, they are terrible hunters. I love them. Like, oh, it's gonna see that cricket. Yeah. Get it. Get it. You're so bad at life. They're so cute. We do have a pair of these guys. We aren't really trying to breed them all that hard. We will be giving them an upgrade to their tank and then hopefully trying a bit harder in their new tank, but just in this current one, we're really not trying that hard. We are focusing on a lot of other species this year. These guys just aren't the top of the list, but man, are they ever cute. They've got the hunting ability of like a snail, but they got the cuteness of I don't know, whatever the cutest thing you can think of is, because that's what they're cute as. But good lord, you guys are terrible hunters. How many times have you stricken in just this clip and you can't eat one? Maybe some stage fright or something. But over here we have Ho, and this is our baby Sonora occipitalis. So this is the baby that was captive hatched here at the Jungle Vault. We didn't captive breed them because the females came in gravid, and we just managed to hatch one of the eggs. That's what that distinction means, but he is doing great. He's a spicy little boy. I was in there just cleaning up his tank a little bit, wiping down the sides because we spray and then it gets covered in mineral deposits and whatnot. And the amount of times he struck at me as like a shoelace snake striking at a massive hand coming at your face, they got balls. I'll give them that. A lot of people message both Bree and myself about these guys. We don't have any for sale. If we produce babies this year, we still probably won't sell them. Even if we did decide to sell them, it's just going to be a first come, first served basis. Like, we're not doing any holds for them. We're not doing anything like that. It's just going to be like, hey, I really love these guys. Can I buy one? And we will be very selective with who they go to, because Sonora in general need to have more captive breeding. They don't have any currently, really, at this moment. For people just to keep them as pets, while that's fantastic for us, it really does nothing at all for the species. And not saying that we're going to like reintroduce these or anything like that. They just need to be more captive bred specimens, because we all know the risks with wild caught specimens, and we have felt it here. So now that we've talked about the Sonora occipitalis, we can move down to the Sonora episcopa. We do have a pair of Sonora episcopa. The male is in here hiding under that flat rock, so unfortunately I can't really show you him. And the female is also hiding under a flat rock, but she is a little bit more visible. She's like a very anery coloration, where he is just like a typical kind of orange color. So these guys are doing great. Again, wild-caught imports from the US. Overall, I would say for experienced keepers, they're fairly easy to acclimatize into captivity. But if you're just like a beginner and you see one of these, like, oh, it's a It's a cricket-eating snake. I can buy it. I would highly, highly recommend not going for it and finding something else that fits your needs a little bit better, because they aren't that easy to acclimatize. Just keep that in mind. But these guys are doing great. We didn't put them down for brumation this year, but we will next year. And then the rest of this rack just has another kind of like display vivarium. If somebody's interested in purchasing it, let us know in the Greater Toronto area. And then down there is vampire crabs. But again, I'm going to save those for their own video. I do actually have a tank that I built for the Borneo ones that I got. It's mostly water because that's what they appreciate. I didn't film a video on that, but I did film like a reel, so I'll show you guys that in due time. Because we have so few snakes out, like the entire bottom is all empty, and we just have basically the ones for sale and then a couple holdbacks. So let's show you guys a bunch of the different hognoses and the other snakes that we have kicking around. This is one of the baby Boega that we hatched. We currently have 4 total. We actually had a full clutch of eggs hatch for the first time that we've ever produced them. I'm really proud of Brie for doing that. She finally figured it out on the last go, which kind of sucks, but it's very nice to have these little guys kicking around. They're super cute, super small. They are a rear fang venomous snake. Keep that in mind. Obviously, they're not for everybody, but they will be available for sale once they have proven they start eating on their own and start growing nice and big. This is kind of interesting because it's a hybrid locality. So we had a Malaysian and an Indonesian, I believe. We've never had them hatch out with that kind of banding pattern. Typically, they're always just like a bright orange. I'm only going to show you one because they basically all look the same, except the older individual that we had. Look at that. I mean, you guys can see the like bright orange. Absolutely gorgeous. Are you going to be spicy boy? Or are you going to come out and just be nice? Nope. He's zooming. He's zooming. It's kind of hard to hold him super low, but yeah. So these are, I don't know how much you can really see, but little baby Boega. Alrighty, and now we can move on to a few of the hognoses that we have available. We do have many more available on our morph market, but these are just the ones that I wanted to kind of highlight in here. This is one of our productions from 2023. This is a anaconda het albino frosted. So it's het albino, het Dutch hypo, and het caramel. Almost breeder male size, to be honest. And if you guys are interested, he is up on Morph Market. We do ship to the US as well as across Canada. Macaroni is an albino superconda. He is a little goober. He's got a really nice dorsal line, kind of orange, and then more yellow sides. Very beautiful individual. There, now you can really see that dorsal stripe. Gorgeous. I love these guys. These are of like the more common, kind of cheaper, more affordable morphs. They are very high up there in terms of affordability and beauty. Next up, we have a spicy sable het albino. Gorgeous little critter. Not the most happy to be out right now, clearly. But if you guys don't know what sables are, basically they go much darker as adults. They consistently lose color. It's kind of like an increasing melanin gene where they start off slightly different than normal looking and then can go almost black as they age. Now the albino version of the sable is called a sunburst, and you can obviously tell why. These guys like glow orange and have some nice pink hues and whatnot. I really like the orange color palette, and these guys have it. If you guys are looking for a huge addition with great genes to your pet family or breeder project, this is always a great addition. We have a super Arctic anaconda, het albino, 50% het sable, with really cool markings on them. Look at those dots. They're like perfect all the way down the spine. Super, super cool. This is a really unique one. We haven't really hatched one that looks just like this, and that's the nice thing about the Arctics. And I guess super Arctics in general, is that none of them are the exact same. They always come out with some variation of pattern, coloration. They can be more black, they can be more pinky, they have a ton of variability to them. So this is like the typical cookies and cream, beautiful black and white snake. This is a Mexican hognose snake named Cabo, for obvious reasons. This snake right here hatched out at like 1 gram. And Bree has dedicated her time and effort into making him grow. And now he's like the average size of a normal hatchling. So Bree's doing a great job, but I really like the coloration. You can see his pattern and coloration and like background color changes right at his neck there. It goes from like kind of a tan to almost like a gray, which is so cool. But Cabo is a holdback. He's got so much personality. I think he is Bree's at least one reason why she loves snakes so much, because he's just so cute. He's ferocious and he eats like a champ, which is great, but we literally have to cut the pinkies in half for him to be able to eat them, just because he is so tiny. I mean, that's the palm of my hand. And just before we move to our final animal, we're going to continue with a couple of new hognoses that we got. These guys are in quarantine right now, so that's why they're not in the room at all. This is Coconut. This is a leucistic hognose. Bright white, kind of a pinky color. Very, very cute. They're eating like champs. They're doing great right now in quarantine, so soon enough they'll be able to move into the main collection. We did get a pair, but I believe we ended up getting 2 females. So yeah, this is the other one. This is Trillium. Just going nuts, apparently. Can you just be scared rather than like zooming around? That would be ideal. And the final piece to this reptile room puzzle is the one that we started with, Tytula, the Brachylophus bula bula, the Fijian banded iguana, one of the rarer species that you see in captivity, at least in the US, because they're pretty much illegal to own anywhere in the US. But in Canada, they're actually fairly common. And if I'm being honest with you, they are the best iguana to keep in captivity. They're fairly inactive in terms of iguanas, and they stay this size, 10 or 11 inches from snout to vent. Love him dearly. His tank is doing great. He does have a few tank mates. Well, Bree decided to put some Malaysian house geckos in here, and now we're captive breeding Malaysian house geckos. So there's a few more than we started off with, but they're doing great. And I did want to point out that these are all live plants. You can have live plants in with your iguana, or your Fijian banded iguana at least. I don't want to speak for other iguanas, but look, I mean, that's hibiscus down there. That's a giant philodendron. This is a rhaphis palm, I think it's called. 2 or 3 other hibiscus plants down here. We have a hardy bamboo plant that we just installed in this tank about a week ago. That will definitely outgrow this tank, so we're basically just gonna have to keep cutting it back when we need to. And then down in the very bottom, we have 2 little baby Ficus benjamina plants, one there and one back there. And finally, we have some grass in the back there. Liriope grass, I believe is what this is called. It's the same grass that's planted in the Tachycromis tank that you guys saw towards the beginning of this video. That is his enclosure currently, looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Beautiful universal rock background, a bunch of branches from a dead apple tree. And that does it for the very first reptile room of the year, February this time, because I didn't do January, but February 2025 is here and things are improving. We're always changing stuff. We're always moving things. We're always upgrading tanks. We're, you know, typical busy reptile people. Those of you who get it, get it. I want to thank you guys all very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, smash the like button. Make sure you click subscribe. Comment for what you'd like to see more of in future reptile room tours or less of, etc. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Later.